1641.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
The heat wave is officially over. We had a 10-day stretch where temperatures were in the 90s or above, and 8 of those days we had a heat index in the triple digits. Thankfully, we're not dealing with any of that this afternoon. In fact, we'll have a mix of clouds and sun, a high temperature of 84 degrees. That will fall into the upper 60s tonight. We have to watch for some rain chances after midnight on Tuesday, even some scattered showers and storms possible Wednesday into Thursday. With your first solar forecast, I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
The time to rise has been engaged. We're better, best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. Your finest hour.
Hello and welcome to a brand new week, Monday afternoon here on Colombo and Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and there's a lot to talk about as we kick off this week. Closer and closer to the beginning of school for most kids. I think some kids, especially private school kids, I think, are already back in school or getting ready back maybe this week. I'm not sure. We're in public school, and we have 1 week left of summer break in the Colombo household. So it's gonna be a big one. But kids get ready to go back to school. We have got some interesting things to talk about today, including daylight saving time back in the news, back in front of lawmakers in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump has been pushing for daylight saving time to be permanent across the United States, something that I am so wholeheartedly for, so 100% behind. If I was a single issue voter, daylight saving time being permanent might be that one issue for me. There is nothing worse in life than when it's dark at 4:30 in the afternoon. That should never happen. You should never be driving home from work at 4:30, 4:45, and it's dark outside. And you never get to see the sun. You never get to see the sun after work. You can't go home and do anything outside or be outside, or the kids have to, Nope. I think most people are on the permanent daylight saving time track, but I know not everybody is, and I just don't get it. And don't give me the morning. Don't give me that it's too dark in the morning. Who cares about the morning? You're not living in the morning. You're living in the afternoon. You're living at night. That's when you need the sun. You need the sun to get ready to go to work? Come on. Give me a break. The bus stops. I got 2 kids at the bus stop. They're fine. The bus stop is 30 feet from the door. They're okay if the sun's not up yet. We need the sun in the evening. Should never be dark at 4:30. That's my final. That would be my entire case. If I was the lawyer, it'd be my opening statement and my closing statement. It should never be dark at 4:30. I rest my case. But I'll explain some of the details, the actual real details of the story as we go through the afternoon, because it is pretty interesting, and something's got to happen. A decision has to be made, and it's already made some significant progress, this bill, to make daylight saving time permanent. So there's some interesting things here, and we'll get into those in a bit as we go through the show today. Also this week, Meta is heading to court, a case brought by a group of several states who claim that Meta designed its social media platforms to be addictive and misled the public about potential risk. This is interesting. We're going to talk about this today, obviously, but we'll probably dig into this even further tomorrow when we get our big tech AI expert, Mike McCleary, on the line. Mike McCleary is with us every Tuesday afternoon. But, there's some interesting details in this, because if you are going to make the case and Instagram were illegally and deceptively designed to be addictive, and particularly addictive to young people, wouldn't that apply to every single social media platform? If Facebook is addictive to young people, what's TikTok? I mean, wouldn't this immediately open the floodgates? And wouldn't this immediately make basically every social media platform guilty of the same thing? So we'll dig into this not only tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll also have Susie Moore, our legal expert, on, another perfect person to kind of help us understand this. But we'll get into the details of this issue as we go through the afternoon. We also have a Democratic governor, Andy Beshear, in Kentucky, who over the weekend did an interview where he admitted, which I know this is difficult for many liberals, he admitted, that socialism is a failed experiment. So that's refreshing to hear somebody on the left say that. However, when he also thinks that capitalism is a failed venture, which, we started off on the right track, and then we immediately deviated. And then he went into some of his plans, some of the things that he would like to institute in order to, what he said, was it fix the government? Yeah, fix the government. His steps to fix the government, one of those included eliminating the Electoral College. So here we go again with this. This is not just some whack job social media influencer on a podcast somewhere that nobody's listening to saying this. This is a governor of one of the 50 states. And somebody, Andy Beshear is one of those names that, has been batted around as being, a possible leader of the Democratic Party in the next generation, or at least one of the big names that carries a lot of influence, a lot of weight in that party. And we've heard this before. They've got this list of things that are their ultimate goals, and they are to, make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico a state, eliminate the Electoral College, like we're talking about, pack the Supreme Court, and you know what else used to be on that list? This is why I get nervous about the whole conversation about the filibuster. You know what used to be on the Democrats' list of priorities to get done? Right next to make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico a state and eliminate the Electoral College, eliminate the filibuster, was also on that list. But now it's on the Republican list. Why? Because it's always on the list when people are in power. Whoever has the power always entertains the thought of eliminating the filibuster. Now the Democrats act like eliminating the talk about talk about the flip test. Call this on the Democrats, but you can do it on the Republicans just as easily on this specific issue. Now the Democrats, want to talk about the sanctity of the U.S. government and our system and the way we do things and all of these and, how important it is for the filibuster to give, the voices that aren't as represented, because they lost elections. That's why they're not as represented. But to give those voices, make those voices heard, you got to have the filibuster. Whereas just a few years ago, they were making the same case. The Republicans, a few years ago, Republicans were making that case of, oh, you can't do it. You can't do it. That's against the way that the intended system of the United States. Whoever's in power wants to eliminate the filibuster. So I know it sounds like a great thing now, and I know I'm alone on an island on this one too. I know I'm like the last guy saying that this is maybe not a great idea, but I still stand by that. Maybe I'm just too stupid to understand what's going on, but I sure have heard the argument of why we shouldn't get rid of the filibuster from many Republicans over the years. Many. So, should I have listened to them then, or should I listen to them now? Because the message is completely different. But, didn't mean to go down that. There's so much going on in this world that, any of these issues can take you down the path of all these things. But, yeah, Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, laid out his list of things. He did an interview on CBS this weekend, and we'll get into all these. His list of things that can be done to fix the United States government and eliminating the Electoral College was one of the priorities on that list. We're also going to get you the latest coming out of Iran as we go through the afternoon. Donald Trump has floated out the idea of declaring the Strait of Hormuz a U.S. territory. It was Greenland. What else was it? What was the other one? There was Greenland. Why am I drawing a blank on the other one that he was going to, that we were going to take over in the last few months under Donald Trump? Now it's the Strait of Hormuz, a U.S. territory. That would be something. There's also, you might have seen these headlines today, that the U.S.-Iran ceasefire is set to expire today. Have you felt like we've been in a ceasefire? Have you been counting down the days of when the ceasefire ends? Because it could get ugly over there? No, because it's been ugly over there. I don't know that today is any different than any day of last week or any other day coming up this week. But obviously, because I guess there is some piece of paper or agreement somewhere that's got this ceasefire and today's date on it, that makes lawmakers and the media pay more attention and act like that somehow today is going to be a bigger day or could have more impact than any other day, whereas we've just seen, Iran they haven't been abiding by any ceasefire. They haven't been abiding by any rules throughout this entire thing. They've been doing what they want. They've been talking a lot of trash the entire time. So we will get you the latest out of Iran as we go through the afternoon as well. We are going to talk to Justin Sparks, our law enforcement expert, former Missouri State representative. I know he'll have some thoughts on what's happening in Iran and just the overall state of the Republican Party and both nationally, but also here in the state of Missouri. And I really want to dig into some of those things and follow up on a conversation that we had last week when we get Justin Sparks on the line in the 3 o'clock hour about the direction of this country and this state. as we head into the midterm elections in November. So very much looking forward to that. We're also going to talk to Paul Curtman, our economic expert. Get our check on the economy, our beginning of the week market check, and more from Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Paul joins us next here on Colombo and Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
What they told ya. Now you do what they told ya. And now you do what they told ya. And now you do what they told ya.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
So this past weekend was my daughter's 16th birthday celebration. Now, her birthday's actually still a couple weeks away, but she wanted to do like a lake trip with a couple of friends to celebrate her 16th birthday. So she asked if we could do this, this party a little early. So she hasn't turned 16 yet, but it's about to happen, which means we're about to have another vehicle conversation in the Colombo household. And this is where I thank God for Weber Chevrolet and knowing that if we are going to make that decision to get her a new vehicle, that I can go to someone that I know and trust and has the reputation and the customer service rankings to prove that they are the best in the area, and that, of course, is Weber Chevrolet. 3 locations around town to serve you: Creve Coeur in Missouri, Granite City, and Columbia in Illinois. Weber Chevrolet is about to celebrate 125 years in business in the St. Louis area, which is just absolutely incredible and proof of how much they've taken care of their customers and St. Louis families, generation after generation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in business for 125 years. And the reputation scores and customer service rankings, they prove it also month after month, year after year. Weber Chevrolet always #1 with a bullet when it comes to reputation scores for GM dealers across the Midwest and across the entire country, quite frankly. So nobody's going to give you a better deal on a new vehicle than Weber Chevrolet. Nobody's going to give you more on your trade-in than the folks at Weber Chevrolet. And nobody's going to take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you have it better than the team at Weber Chevrolet. So if you're looking for a new vehicle, check out what's happening at all 3 Weber Chevrolet dealerships now by going to WeberChevrolet.com.
License number GL250000615.
You're cooking dinner. The lights go out. You flip the breaker and forget about it.
But what if it keeps tripping?
Trips once, your breaker's doing its job. Keeps tripping? That's a warning. Bad wiring or something worse.
Do people just keep flipping it?
Most do, until they can't anymore.
Call Grasser. We'll stop the trip.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Senator Hawley, I grew up in North County. The subdivision that I lived in, Coldwater Creek, ran through our neighborhood.
The federal government dumped radioactive waste into the water, into the air, and they knew about it. They've done it for 70 years, and they've lied about it. And people in our state and in that region in particular have gotten sick and died.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
On the next
Larry Connor's USA.
The story behind the story, 1969, the most famous concert in history.
Woodstock. Larry Connors, USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Monday afternoon means it is time to check in with our economic expert, Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Our beginning of the week market check and economy check as we're getting ready to wrap up summer, at least when it comes to kids. As I mentioned, final week of summer vacation for a lot of kids out there. Wrapping up this summer of 2026. Brand new week, and we've got Paul on the line with us now. Paul, how are you?
Hey, doing good, Tony. And so far this week, markets are off to a little bit of a rough start. All three indexes are down. So good news maybe around the corner, but some of the economic numbers are just a little bit mixed. Here's two interesting things that caught my eye this week, Tony.
Okay.
One of them is this. July retail sales fell 0.6%, which is the first monthly decline in 9 months. And it's also the largest drop in retail sales in more than a year. And that sounds pretty bad. But what's interesting is the NFIB. We've talked about this before. The NFIB Small Business Optimism Index rose 2.4 points. So now it sits at a score of 99.8, and that's the highest level in nearly a year, and it's above its long-term average of 98 points. So the Small Business Optimism Index is super high. However, retail sales are down for the first time in 9 months. So it's kind of mixed. Business owners are feeling really strong, really positive, but the market seems to indicate that sales are pulling back in the retail markets from consumers.
That's interesting. And, and it's also interesting that we're starting a conversation, starting a week for once with a kind of a negative. Now, we've had conversations in recent weeks and months where it's been maybe just sort of meh or flat or whatever as we start the week, but it's very rare that it doesn't happen very often that we talk about, a little bit of a struggle or, not a great start to the week. So as much as it's been, and we've talked about this a lot, as much as the rest of the world has seemingly been on fire and there's uncertainty and there's concern and there's, drama and issues all over the place, by and large, and correct me if I'm wrong, but by and large, the markets and the economy have just kind of plugged along all year.
Yeah, the markets sure have. The S&P 500 year-to-date is up over 13%, which is incredible by anybody's definition of a good, strong run for the markets. So that's really good. Now, we were off to a rocky start the first part of the year. Between January and April, the markets, if you were looking at January 1st to, say, end of March, beginning of April, right about there. The markets were down. The S&P 500 was down over 5%. But then something happened right at the very end of March. I think it was the very first press release that there was going to be a ceasefire in the new Iran war, new at the time, Iran war. And then since that low at the end of March, the S&P 500 came all the way back up. There was over a 22% move in the S&P 500 up from the low of the year, which happened right about the end of March. And so when you put all of that together, year to date, we're up over 13%. That is pretty powerful, all things considered. We've had mixed economic signals coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in terms of GDP or in terms of retail sales or CPI. But the markets have really just moved along at a pretty good clip. Even when you consider the fact that energy, for a good period of time, energy was really high and really creating a lot of inflationary pressure. But we had a really strong run. we had a down week, and now we've just had 3 weeks of a really strong market, and so now we're beginning this week, and it's just looking like if today's trend continues throughout the week, we'll end the week in the red, just because we're getting off on that foot. But who really knows what's going to happen for the rest of the week? But yeah, you're right. The market's been so strong for us. We're beginning the week talking about the market being in the red a little bit, and that's just a little unusual when you look at what's happened, especially over the last 4 or 5 months.
So looking at that retail sales drop that you mentioned at the beginning, is this time of year like traditionally a time where this happens, or is there just is it just you have to have a slowdown every now and then, or are there specific things happening right now that are impacting this? Is it just a trend, or like a normal sort of ebb and flow of the markets, or is there something that's directly making this happen?
So
you got the gardeners out there? Is that the gardeners working in the yard, or are you at boat races? I can't tell exactly.
I wish it was both. I wish I was at the boat races while I had gardeners working in my yard. Tony, that's what I wish it was. Unfortunately, I think the news is my desk is just a little extra crunchy today. I don't know what the word is. I leaned on my desk just now and it just started making some noise.
Oh no, I can hear a buzz. There's like a buzz in the background. It sounded like maybe like a remote control airplane was taking off for a second. It's not there all the time, but it just came and went. Like it sounded like maybe somebody was running a weed whacker in the backyard or something. It's not.
Well, I hope next time it happens. I have better news for you that I'm at the boat races while the gardeners are working my yard.
So I'm sorry. Go. Yeah, absolutely. So anything. Is it just a natural thing? This retail sales being down this week, or is there something specifically impacting us?
So it can be cyclical, and it usually does come in cycles. You'll see different sectors go up and go down, and they all kind of have their own rhythm. Sometimes they align, sometimes they don't. Retail sales can surge when consumers just feel like they're flush with cash, and then they snap back and they start keeping their money in their pocket when prices are higher, or when they have debt or interest rates begin to catch up with them. So the key is really whether the decline is one bad month or the beginning of a sustained trend. So this recent retail sales number shows us that this is the first time in 9 months that we've gotten some really, some negative numbers that we want to start paying attention to. And it could be the fact that maybe some of the inflation concerns that others have had are just now beginning to catch up with consumers because they've been spending more money on energy. Even though we might see oil prices begin to come down right now, you have leading and lagging economic indicators. So something might happen in the economy, but it doesn't really catch up with your wallet for another month or two. So to answer that question, it's all cyclical. Mm-hmm. So it comes and it goes. And you also got to consider this, that those were numbers for the month of July. And just one variable here, maybe you have a lot of moms and dads who are saving money in July because they want to catch a bunch of back to school sales, in August and in September. So there's a lot of reasons why consumers might decide to keep their money in their pocket in July versus just go out and spend it. But those are numbers that we want to pay attention to. When people begin to tighten their belt, we want to pay attention to that because that will have a ripple effect down the road in the economy.
And then you mentioned the optimism remaining very high, like record high, basically. That's not something, I'm glad that you mentioned that because those are the kind of things that a lot of times don't get touched on or don't get reported on. And we very rarely hear anything about optimism when it comes to any area, let alone the markets or the economy. But that's got to be a strong, there's got to be a really good reason behind that because, all we hear in the news is, jobs numbers were bad and AI is going to put everybody out of business. But apparently the optimism out there for at least retailers is extremely high. What's driving that optimism and why isn't some of those other negative, the negative noise that we hear everywhere else, doesn't seem to be penetrating that optimism right now? This
index that I'm looking at doesn't really get into a complete survey of what's driving the optimism. I think there's a number of reasons for that, but the reason for the index is because it can be a very good leading indicator of what's going to happen over the next few months if today small business owners are making decisions because of how they feel about tomorrow. So if they suddenly feel very much more optimistic about tomorrow, for the economy tomorrow, for their market, for their business tomorrow, well, then they might start hiring and expanding and borrowing to invest, or investing capital stores that they've been saving up for the purpose of investment. And so if they have confidence in the future, it's going to make them feel much more cavalier about trying to expand their business or expand their product line or their customer base. So that's really good. When we see those optimism indexes climb like that, that's a really good sign that we might see a burst of growth. Yeah. I mean, this still has to play out. We actually have to see it happen, but it's a really good indication of what economic growth could be around the corner.
Talking to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Well, we have a few minutes left here, Paul. I want to switch gears and rely on some of your military background. Paul is, he's our economic expert here, but also a veteran, also a former Missouri State rep, so can help us sort of understand things from the military side, from the political side. If it's possible to understand things from the political side, Paul, I don't know, maybe it's not, but if anybody's got a chance at it, it's you. Well, first of all, I want to ask you this. I said this at the beginning of the show, because all these headlines are out today. I don't know if you've seen any of these. U.S. and Iran ceasefire set to expire today, Monday. Did you know that we were in a ceasefire? Who was listening to the rules of any ceasefire that we've been in the last several weeks? Because maybe technically we were in a ceasefire, but did it feel like Iran was operating under any type of restrictions or rules? Like, this is, when I read this headline today, I'm sure, it's true, obviously, but is it really news when it doesn't seem like anybody's obeying the ceasefire, that the ceasefire is expiring?
Maybe not, but I will point this out, though. I think it is progress that we've made it to the end of the ceasefire. So, just the fact that the headline says it's set to expire tomorrow, right, wow, that is progress that we've actually been able to make it, because we haven't been able to get there. We haven't even been able to get to the end of a mutually agreed upon date for the end of a ceasefire, because somebody's always interrupted it. But yeah, it should be bigger news. I think that is probably the most remarkable point of the news, is the fact that we made it to the end, and that in and of itself could be a sign of progress.
So the president addressed this today, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because if there's one good thing also that comes out of this, is that with the end of this agreement, it's time to make another one. Now it's time to have that conversation about what's next. And it kind of forces us to have that conversation and hopefully finally push, the administration, or have some more aggression, or have some more, push to a solution than we've seen up to this point, where I just feel like we've just been spinning our wheels for the last several months, making no progress at all. So in regards to the ceasefire ending, Donald Trump said today that Iran wants a deal with the United States, but is unwilling to accept the necessary terms to make that deal happen. Trump said, quote, "They want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. You understand that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they won't have a nuclear weapon. And right now, them building one after we did previously with the B-2 bombers, it's after what we did previously with the B-2 bombers, it's going to be a long time. It's very simple. They can't have a nuclear war." President's remarks come as the ceasefire expires. So there you go. So President saying that, and he says this all the time, that Iran is begging to make a deal. They're desperate to make a deal. And then Iran is, on the world stage, literally listing the demands that they have for the United States behavior correction, their words, their demands for U.S. behavior correction is what what we heard from them last week. None of this makes me feel like we are getting our act together or getting on the right track finally to, make some progress and maybe even have a solution to this issue moving forward. How do you feel about where we're at as this ceasefire expires today?
It feels like second verse, same as the first.
Yes.
I feel like we haven't picked up any traction whatsoever. And like, I know I said it just kind of joking a minute ago about, hey, we made it to the end of the ceasefire. That's the most progress we've been able to make now
you're right.
in 6 months.
You were right.
And that's that is unsatisfactory. I mean, we've always known that Iran's been a threat, that they've sent these proxy soldiers out to fight their proxy wars. We know that they have funded terrorism. We know that they have funded militias going into Iraq to kill our troops. And so, hey, I think if we were going to go in there and be in there for 3 or 4 weeks, put them under such incredible, chaotic, and violent pressure that they were scrambling to find every strip of white cloth they could to surrender and give us whatever terms. I think the American people would have been okay with that. Get in there, get out. But now we're here. We are several months into this. We have a lot of people who have invested in this country through the ballot box and through our campaigns. And I feel like that the longer this drags on, the more likely it is that we're going to realize that a lot of those investments that we've made at the local level, even, at the congressional level, I think a lot of that's going to get eaten up by the energy that's being put into this already. I'll call it drawn out. It's a drawn out process now, and with no end in sight, because we keep hearing the same thing from both sides over and over and over again. The threats are beginning to ring empty. From Iran, but also from the White House. Like, we want to see this wrapped up. And I don't think we have a lot of luxury, a lot of time, and a lot of room for error here. We have communists winning elections in America. Yeah. And so I don't want to see this war become a distraction for the domestic battles that we have to fight, that we're going to be facing when it comes to policy in America. I don't want our country accidentally and slipping into communism because we've all had our eye on Iran. I want this to be over.
I think you're so right, and I think that if we are in any type of similar situation as we are today, and as we have been for the last few months, if it's still like this in November, it's going to be a major problem for Republicans. It's going to be a major problem for the Trump administration and the Republican Party to try to hold the House and the Senate through the midterms. Okay, I got 2 more questions. We're so out of time, but I got one funny one and one real one. I'll ask the real one first. When Iran is out there, when any enemy, like specifically in this case Iran, where we've seen them literally demanding concessions from the United States, listing out their commands for behavior correction from the United States, whether we know they can back it up or not, because I don't think, obviously we could smack them down in a heartbeat if we wanted to, but we haven't, and we've emboldened them to be like that. What does that do, if any? Does it have any impact on the United States military and the service members themselves when you can see all of this trash talk coming from your enemy on a constant basis and nothing getting done about it? Does it have any impact on the men and women serving?
So I'm going to answer that 2 ways. One, the first way is no, because we have the very best people that you could find anywhere in the world serving in the U.S. military. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased towards our country. I'm saying that because I've been in the U.S. military and I've trained with other militaries from other countries around the world. We are head and shoulders above every single military in the world in terms of professionalism. Now, the other thing that I'll say to that is this. Morale is an incredibly important factor in troop readiness. The first mission is mission accomplishment. That's what you're going for. The second one is troop welfare. You have to take care of the troops, and so the troops should not be stuck in a place where things are being drawn out with no end in sight. They want to reach their objective also, and we have to make sure that they have a pathway from point A to point B victory.
So, and then here's the other one. Here's one way to maybe fix all of this. Donald Trump today said that he would consider the idea of making the Strait of Hormuz a U.S. territory. I couldn't remember at the beginning of the show. I've mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I said it was Greenland, and I was like, what was the other one? I know there was 2 countries that he had said that, like in the last year, that he would take over, and it's Canada. It was Canada was the other one. I couldn't remember. Greenland, Canada, funny. And now the Strait of Hormuz. He said, quote, we currently control it. We control it with a blockade. We have a blockade, so we control it with the blockade, and I like the idea of declaring the strait a territory. We could do that.
That's how you get the toll. If it's not a U.S. territory, if it's international territory, you can't do a toll. But if it suddenly becomes U.S. territory, now you have a platform, you have an argument to say, okay, now we're going to have a toll. We're going to secure it, but we're going to charge a toll.
This is probably a stupid question, but can you just declare the water? Like, do you have to have land in that somewhere to declare it a territory, or you just... Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but I feel like if anybody can declare it, I feel like that.
Well, if anybody will just declare it, he'll declare it. Imagine there's a timeline out there where Greenland, Canada, and the Strait of Hormuz are all U.S. territories. Thanks to Donald Trump.
Maybe it happens.
Yeah. There's in the multiverse. There's got to be at least one timeline where Donald Trump got all of these things, and we have.
I hope somebody writes that comic book.
Yeah,
I hope somebody writes that. That would be great.
Yeah. Now you know what? You know what? I would vote for you to be the congressperson, the non-voting congressperson that represents the Strait of Hormuz in Washington D.C. You can be the. And I'll be the congressman from Greenland. we'll both have those positions. That's great. Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Paul, remind folks real quick before we let you go. We're already so late, so who cares? Remind folks if they want to get on the right path financially, whether they're closing in on retirement or just just want to make sure they're making the right decisions with their financial future. How can they find you and anything about PR Curtman Investments we need to let folks know about?
The best way to get a hold of me is just an email. They can email me, paul@prcurtman.com, paul@prcurtman.com.
Great stuff. Paul, thanks as always for your time, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
You bet. All right, and I want to talk a little bit about the daylight savings issue before we get Justin Sparks on the line. Justin's going to join us in just about 12 minutes from now, just after 3 o'clock. Justin Sparks will be with us, and as I mentioned, the daylight savings time has been passed. Making daylight savings time permanent has made it through the House of Representatives. It's now to the United States Senate. This is something that the president has been pushing for. Fill you in on that and more next.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
Here's my problem.
Completely agree with your sentiments.
He talks about we're divided. Well, yeah, we are. And we need to wake up as a country and realize what's going on.
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The Mosquito SWAT team is growing. We're looking for licensed 7A pest control technicians to join our Baldwin-based team. Learn more about this career opportunity at themosquitoswatteam.com. That's themosquitoswatteam.com.
With all of the celebrations, anniversaries, and holidays coming up over the next few months, where are you going to go to get that special something for the special people in your life? Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, of course. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers found 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. Tim Jones here to tell you all about Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. Richard Newsteader and his team serving our region since 1961 with awesome, honest jewelry solutions. They've got everything from diamonds to wedding engagement rings, hand-engraved items, pendants, earrings, and so much more. You can find them 24/7, wowdiamonds.com. That's Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
Paul Curtman's financial update is brought to you by PR Curtman Investments, providing customized strategic guidance to help you build and protect your wealth. Learn more at prcurtman.com.
That's an 80s classic there. Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Once again, big thank you to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments for joining us in that last segment. Great conversation. Not only could Paul, give us all the details on what's happening with the markets, and that's why he's with us every Monday. Gives us that, beginning of the week market check, and which has usually been, as I mentioned in the conversation with him a moment ago, despite all the other drama, madness, chaos happening across the world and across the country, the markets have by and large plugged along pretty positively throughout this year. And started this week off with a little bit of a hiccup, and we'll see how that plays out. But by and large, the markets have remained sort of immune to all of the other outside noise, which is surprising to me. But that's why it's so important to talk to Paul each and every week and understand what's going on with the markets and what's impacting them, and just keeping an eye on all of that for our future. So big thanks again to Paul. If you missed any of that conversation, go up and check it out on our podcast. Of course, we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day, and we put it on basically every podcast platform. So wherever you get your podcasts, on that platform, subscribe to Colombo and Company. Justin Sparks joins us in a few minutes. First, I wanted to talk about daylight saving time. This is a big one for me. It's a big one for the president, too. The House of Representatives approved a bill this year to thrust the nation onto permanent daylight saving time. So now this has gone to the United States Senate, and it has once again picked up momentum here in recent days. The president has been really pushing the United States Senate to act on this. Rick Scott, senator out of Florida, was discussing the issue, and he said, quote, "Around the country, people are going to be excited because they don't have to go back and forth." When he's regarding switching the clocks. We'll no longer have to, spring the clocks forward, drop the clocks back. Rick Scott is not the only one who says that the time should expire for the clocks switching. The president, in a Truth Social post, said, quote, "People are sick and tired of having to change their clocks twice a year. It's foolish, inconvenient, and in some cases very costly for cities and states with watchtowers and hard-to-reach places. It costs millions of dollars." I'm not sure what watchtowers he's talking about. Anyway, he goes on to say, quote, "This is an issue that Republicans, Democrats, and independents can unite behind. I am asking Republican senators to release their holds and allow the hotline to clear on the Republican side. All caps now. Let's pass the Sunshine Protection Act ASAP." Amen, President Trump. Daylight savings advocates say passing the Sunshine Protection Act is more pressing than you think. Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama said about this, quote, "This might be more important to my people back home than the SAVE Act." That's a reference, obviously, to the Voting Act, the Voting ID Act. But Tommy Tuberville said that at least what he's hearing from his constituents is that this would be a priority. We've been down this road before. In 2022, there was an effort to eliminate the time change. In 2022, it was the Senate that actually okayed the bill, but it was the House that didn't vote it down, but just never just sort of allowed it to die on the vine. Never pushed the vote on the issue, and therefore it expired. Now, here in 2026, we have the reverse. The House has acted. They've approved this bill. They've sent it to the United States Senate. The president is engaged and pushing for this. And so it is now up to the United States Senate and, the Republican leadership there that controls the Senate. Senate must take action by the end of this Congress for this bill that's already been passed by the House, to make that happen. If we get into next year and the new Congress comes in, obviously all of the bills, all of the votes, anything that was done by this Congress will be wiped away. So there's still a few months left, but over the weekend and here in recent days, the chatter around daylight saving time and eliminating the clock change, making daylight saving time permanent, has really picked up, and a lot of it has to do with the president pushing this issue. Again, it should never be dark at 4:30. That's all that matters. It should never be dark at 4:30 in the afternoon, no matter what time of year it is. Daylight saving time all year round. No more clock changes. Let's go. Let's make it happen. And if you disagree, I don't like you. I just don't understand you. That's a better way to say it. All right, we are going to get back into some of the latest coming out of Iran. I want to talk about this Andy Beshear, the governor, Democratic governor of Kentucky, calling for the elimination of the Electoral College. All of that and more with Justin Sparks next.
Got scrap metal, junk cars, or old appliances taking up space? Turn that clutter into cash. Since 1968, 21 Recycling and Scrap Metal has been the area's trusted name for recycling. We buy copper, brass, aluminum cans, scrap iron, wheels, catalytic converters, AC units, water heaters, washers, dryers, and yes, junk cars too. With our brand new truck scale on premises, getting paid is fast and easy. Old Highway 21 by Highway M or 21-recycling.com.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
No paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Mark your calendar for the annual Leadership for America Dinner 2026, Friday, September 25th at the St. Charles Convention Center Grand Ballroom. Join News Talk STL for an unforgettable evening featuring keynote speaker Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who exposed the alleged fraud in Minneapolis, plus additional speakers and guests. Dinner's included, so come hungry for great food and bold ideas. For tickets and more information, visit newstalkstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Hurricane Lala weakened on Sunday to a mere tropical storm after raking Hawaii without making landfall over the weekend. Heavy rains and winds strong enough, though, to sweep about 100 homes off their foundations on the Big Island. Hawaii County Mayor Kima Alameda says the good news is that the storm left nobody dead.
Now 65,000 people don't have electric. I mean, all of this devastation. And right now, there's no reports of storm-related fatalities.
2 paramedics did have to be rescued themselves after their vehicles were swept away by floodwaters. The Trump administration is applauding Border Patrol as some amazing stats are released.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt taking to her Truth Social page, alerting to the incredible numbers at our southern border with Mexico. She writes, daily apprehensions at the border are down 94% compared to former President Joe Biden's administration and are at the lowest level seen in 30 years.
The Democrat Socialists of America quietly building a network now of activists to try and influence unions that are central to the Democrat Party. Here's correspondent Bernie Bennett.
The organization's plan encourages young socialists to select jobs where they can either unionize or join existing unions and move them further to the left. While most Americans are aware of DSA-backed office holders Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Zoran Mamdani, the strategy of placing members in unions may actually yield more important dividends for the organization's long-term goals. From 2018 to 2021, the Young Democrat Socialists of America adopted a, quote, rank-and-file strategy as a national priority. The YDSA added that it was organizing members to enter strategic industries such as logistics, education, and healthcare. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
It was a rough day on Wall Street for investors. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 272 points. The Nasdaq was up by 84. More of these stories at Town Hall.
You've probably heard all those ads for life insurance. Just a few dollars a day, apply online in minutes, no medical exam. Simple, easy, and cheap, right? Now you're thinking, maybe I should get a quote. Well, smart thinking. Everyone should have life insurance. But here's what they don't tell you. Those few dollars a day rates, they're for young people in perfect health. That's why everyone calls Big Lou the 50 to 60-year-old not-so-perfect candidate. Like you. You take prescription meds and you're overweight. Winner, winner, fried chicken dinner. Well, Big Lou works with life insurance companies that want people like you with no surprises after you apply. In fact, if you're a 50-year-old guy with a few health glitches, Lou could probably find you $1 million of term life coverage for about $200 a month. So, yeah, you need life insurance. But unless you're young and healthy, you gotta call Big Lou, because he's like you, older, heavier, and on meds, too. Get a quote right now at 800-555-2085, 800-555-2085, or biglou.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Near normal heat in store for our Tuesday. A low of 66, and we'll watch for some patchy fog in the morning. Partly to mostly sunny skies and a high of 88 in the afternoon. That is our normal high, so a normal hot day for Tuesday. Tuesday night after midnight into Wednesday morning, some scattered storms are likely. A lower chance of an isolated storm in the afternoon Wednesday, so better chances Wednesday morning. A low of 71, a high of 85 on Wednesday, and more humid. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Oh, what a perfect time as I look up at the television and I see this survey that I was going to actually bring up in this conversation about Democratic voters across the country having more trust in or wanting to embrace socialism over capitalism. That's going to be part of the conversation as we start this 3 o'clock hour here on Colombo and Company. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and on the line with us now is former Missouri State Representative, our law enforcement expert here on the show, Justin Sparks is with us. Justin, how are you?
Great to be back, Tony.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being here. Great to talk with you. Let's start. We'll ease into it here before we start talking about communism. Let's talk about daylight saving time. Where do you stand on this? The United States House has passed a bill to that would approve what has been something that the president wants. The president has been pushing to eliminate the time change and adopt daylight saving time all year long. And I am passionately for this because I don't think it should ever be dark at 4:30 in the afternoon. There's no worse time of the year than when you get off work at 4:45 and it's pitch black. You get home from work and it's pitch black outside. You have no time to do anything outside. The kids can't play outside. I'm all for this. It's been passed by the House. It's in the Senate's now it's in the Senate's court, which probably means nothing's going to happen. But what do you think of this? Is this something that we should be focused on talking about? This time, with everything else going on in the world, is this an important issue?
Well, you're my friend, but no, it's not important. I would say this. It's important to address it because I feel the same way as you. Like, everybody hates coming home at 4 p.m. and you're like, what in the world? It's dark, and seasonal depression kicks in. Everybody feels it. I think absolutely it's worth doing. What bothers me is a lot of this is political gamesmanship. The president needs a win. His poll numbers are suffering. The Republicans are suffering. They need something desperately. The president wants this. The Senate probably will pick it up just to get any attention off their failure to do anything substantive and pass the SAVE Act. And everybody kind of wants a win. I think that there's probably a lot of back channel political gamesmanship, like I said before, happening right now as part of this. But yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's great. Cool. Both thumbs up, guys. Now actually do the hard stuff too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If they can't even get this, voted on or resolved, because I think the biggest fear is that, it just won't. Not that the Senate will vote it down, that the Senate just won't act at all, and it'll just die on the vine like everything else. And I don't, and kind of to your point about just getting something done. Like the SAVE Act, like can we just do something? Yeah. I think this, it should not be one or the other. We should be able to do little things and big things all at the same time. I don't usually like the argument of like, well, in a world where we're having so many law enforcement issues, why are we working on this thing over here? Well, because we should be able to do it all at once. But not only can we not do multiple things at once, we can't do one thing at once.
No.
When it comes to Congress, when it comes to the House, and when it comes to the Senate, and if they don't get their act together soon, Justin, it's going to be a big problem for the midterm elections for the Republican Party, I think.
Yeah, it really is, and I think that some in the Republican Party are looking to the future already. I think some of them are even kind of accepting what is more and more looking inevitable and realizing, okay, how can I capitalize on this for the future? Here's what I mean. Not only those in the establishment wing of the Republican Party, but all wings of the Republican Party, including those that want to now leave the Republican movement, start their own thing, which is really probably what's happening with those of like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. They're looking at this populist wave. They've read their history. They know where this eventually leads. They know the upheaval that's already going on in our country. You can see it every day in the news. You can see it. It's front and center. Woke is not dead. It has not gone away. Woke 2.0 is here. You have coaches of professional sports teams and their teams refusing to take like in the WNBA, refusing to take the court during the national anthem. You have this stuff that is now this virtue signaling is everywhere. It's front and center. It's in every facet of our society. The polarization, the ideological polarization of the left and right has never been stronger, and it's only now escalating. So you have those that see what's coming up in the short term, and more than likely, the ship has sailed. We'll see. There's still time left. Unfortunately, what motivates conservative Republicans is actually substantive wins. Things like passing the SAVE Act, and now they're disgusted. So the base is absolutely alienated on the right.
Yeah.
There's no
divided.
splitting hairs about this. Yes, they are completely divided. And the Republicans, the coalition that put Donald Trump into power with RFK Jr. and others, that has largely fractured. And the conservative wing is absolutely disgusted because we always knew we had rhinos in the Senate. We always knew they were there. But we didn't realize that they would actually sell out everyone, including their fellow countrymen, for their own political special interests, and that's exactly what's happened.
Okay, so and I think you're right about all of that. I think that you are right when you say that the writing is on the wall, and if something's not done, it looks very unlikely that the Republicans will hold on to both the House and the Senate. But as you mentioned, there's still time. But right now, I certainly I feel that way, that if the election was today, I would not be confident at all that the Republicans would hold on to both the House and the Senate. My question for you and to the universe is, looking at the other side, looking at these people that I'm going to dig into this Andy Beshear stuff here in a minute, how he wants to, abolish the Electoral College. And, right. they hate police officers. They put illegal aliens, they put protecting illegal aliens ahead of protecting United States citizens. You mentioned the WNBA. I've never seen a league so dead set on destroying itself that I don't know. I mean, you could make every wrong decision. And when you look at the polls on the issues, the majority of voters across the country are not in favor of these woke policies and these woke issues. But then when you look at the polls of the actual races, then that's where things start to change. So my long-winded question here is, how is it possible to maybe be losing to this team that is so pathetic and unpopular? How can Republicans, even in the state that they are in, how do you lose to the progressive socialist left that is in place right now?
Okay, so I've thought about that for long and hard, and it seems like it consumes my day thinking about these things, but it's because the supporters of each ideological movement that is large and in front of us in our country are so radically different, and what motivates them is so radically different. That really is the answer to this question. You have a fundamentally, in my opinion, mentally ill subsection of our country that is growing. It's being fed by algorithms, and it's an echo chamber of insanity. And this is the wing that thinks men can be women, that biology doesn't matter, that all this insanity. It's really stupid. The Islamo-communist Marxist wing that, like you said before, thinks that socialism is great, doesn't like capitalism because they don't know the definition or the history of either one of those two terms. And so you have that wing and what motivates them, and then you have the conservative Republican traditional wing, the traditional family values, you would call them, of our country. This would be largely the majority of the country for all 250 years. And because of the inability of Republicans to do what they've said they were going to do, you have that entire subsection that is going to refuse to come to the polls, and that's how you lose. That's how you lose to this radical minority. Remember, throughout history, Tony, whether it's in the Bolsheviks or in China, Mao's China, or anywhere, this has been repeated many, many times before. Or you think of Hitler's Germany. It is a super minority of people, less than 20%, that completely and radically changes the government. It's how you can vote yourself into socialism. You can't vote yourself out. And it has worked many times before. You're seeing the same things of history repeating itself. That's how you lose to this minority, because the majority is so disgusted and so disillusioned with its political elitist leadership, which right now is the Republican Party, that they refuse, out of apathy and disgust, to go to the polls. And that's how it happens. It happens in essentially 1 to 2 election cycles, and the whole country's gone.
You nailed it. And I would add the word division again to that, to the problems within the Republican Party that allows a minority, a united minority to defeat a divided majority, as you know, where, as I mentioned, being the by and large conservatives and the libertarian mindset, and that's part of the problem, is that not all Republicans are the same at all. Many Democrats are, and if they're not, they still vote the same. They still fall in line, and it's a catch-22, Justin, because as a voter, there are plenty of Republicans that I won't vote for because I don't like them. I don't think that they're right. Doesn't mean that I think that the Democrat on the other side is any better. Many times, 99% of the time, if not 100% of the time, the Democrat is even worse. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get my vote. Right. Because but there's where the problem comes in. The Democrats and the Democratic voters, at the end of the day, even though there's plenty of division in that party as well, they fall in line and they do what they're told. And that's why Democrats and Democrat issues are able to, get across the finish line, are able to make progress. Whereas Republicans and libertarian voters will, very often be more, will be more discretionary with their vote, with their votes. And and I don't know which one's the right way to go, because I don't think it's a good idea to be voting for people that you don't like, that you don't trust, just because you're trying to defeat the left. But if you don't do that, then you allow the left to win. It's a catch-22 that the Democrats have taken advantage of for a very long time.
I am so glad that you brought that up, because it's really, I think it's even a smarter, more intelligent point than even you realize. And here's why. You're
smarter than I thought. I like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Well, Tony, that's why we come here. Okay, that's why people listen. For the nuggets of wisdom every single day,
even if they're accidental.
No, seriously. But what you're describing is what I have called the principled voter. Is, you'll hear that with conservatives, Republicans. We have principles, the other side doesn't, but it's really true. But not in the way that people traditionally think of it. Here's what I'm talking about. I once was privy to a private conversation in which the issue was abortion. And the Republican elitist establishment was saying they're going to back off from the abortion issue to moderate their position. And that was upsetting a lot of evangelicals. And the evangelicals were saying, this is a really important issue to us. We believe this is about human beings. And this is really big. It's a cultural issue. It's a moral issue. And the representative of that political elitist group said, yeah, well, where are you going to go? What's your alternative? The point was being made very crassly that you don't have anywhere else to go. You can't go vote for a Democrat because they've already been completely compromised and lost that party on that issue for sure. And you don't have anywhere else to go. So we're going to take you for granted because we know that when we need you, you're going to show up to the polls regardless, and you'll take something better than nothing. And it was a very cynical look, and it was a mistaken look, especially versus when you're looking at something like the evangelical movement and a moral issue. They don't show up.
That's it.
See, it's a complete political miscalculation, because what you just described is a principled voter. They rather stay home and take the hard hit because it's a moral issue that they can't compromise on. They won't go and vote for you, and that's exactly what you're seeing in the polls leading up to the midterms right now.
And when you're not motivated, when you're turned off by maybe your top issue or your top two issues, and now you're not motivated to go to the polls because you don't like your options.
Yep.
Now that cascades down the rest of the ballot and all the votes that you may be making in other areas that you're not doing now. And listen, I don't know where the line is, because I am both ways. there are issues that I will look at and I will say, I will vote for the lesser of two evils. Even if I'm not happy with both sides, one is preferable to the other, and I'll vote, I'll make the lesser of two evils argument and go with that. And other times it's just too much of a bridge where even the lesser of two evils are, and I don't know where that line lands for people, but the abortion issue is such a perfect example because here we go again. Amendments 4 and 5 were the big talking points the primary elections a couple weeks ago. Amendment 3 is going to be, when it comes to local, decisions, statewide decisions in Missouri, Amendment 3 is going to be the top, if not the top, and it's the exact same issue that we had in 2024. Is it that the pro-life crowd, and everybody knows that I'm pro-choice with severe restrictions, but that I'm on an island when it comes to this station, and many people that listen, and I believe the right choice is a very restrictive pro-choice bill with a very hard line of a 15-week, 20-week, 12-week limit. No, outlawing all late term, partial birth, any procedures, all of that, just hard outlaw of all those things. And that's where I think we should go. And I think that what has hurt the pro-life crowd and the Amendment 3 vote in 2024, and I think it could happen again in 2026, is that everybody that goes to vote on this issue, they can come up with a scenario in their brain where they would say, you know what, if somebody wanted to have an abortion, I would never do it, but I don't want to take that. I don't want to tell somebody else that they can't do this or they can't live. They'll come up with a reason, a scenario in their mind where they could see that being the case, and they go, I don't think I can vote to just completely outlaw abortion, which is basically what Amendment 3 does. There are the health of the mother. There's a couple, exceptions like that, but rape and incest in there. But it's basically an outlaw. And I just think that step has been too big of a step for voters, and it has hurt the Republican movement. And it's hurt the pro-life movement because they can't get that across the finish line. Whereas I think if there was some sort of compromise in there, I think like a heartbeat bill or a 12-week or 15-week limit, I think a bill like that would win overwhelmingly in the state of Missouri. But it's not an option for voters. It's all or nothing, and I think that's a problem with Amendment 3. How do you see that race shaping up?
Well, especially with what we saw with Amendment 4 and 5, it was just a complete and utter rejection for different reasons in the electorate of the establishment political elite. So exactly what we were just talking about in Missouri, those that have been in charge, let's call them the so-called, in quotation, the politicians. Mm-hmm. You have those on the right that we've talked about that are completely disgusted and alienated and kind of throw their hands up, throw the towel in, and kind of want to just not show up. Or if they do show up, they're going to resoundingly vote no. And that's exactly what I am concerned with when we're looking at things like Amendment 3, because you have a whole, obviously the left in Missouri is going to vote against that, but now you have all those on the right too for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it looks good. And I think that that's obviously a bad thing, because what we'll have instead is something like Massachusetts, or the most extreme in our state, and enshrined in the Constitution, which of course, because of Amendment 4, we are still doing this. We're going down this road of insanity in our state, enshrining things in our Constitution that should never be there, because they should be laws and legislation voted on by the people's representatives. And again, it's because they're not doing their job. We're going to keep coming around to that central theme in every part of our conversation, because it is the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the elected representation failing to act and failing to do what they were elected to do. And it's because most, in some form or another, are beholden to what? Getting reelected, maintaining power, and giving back to their special interest donors.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with our system.
Yeah. And to your point, the Amendment 4 and Amendment 5 comparison when it comes to Amendment 3 is even more accurate in that one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, certainly with Amendment 4, but also Amendment 5, was a lack of understanding and a lack of communicating and people truly knowing what was on the line, what was at stake, and, what all the consequences were of that vote. I think that is a big part of Amendment 3 as well, because if we allow Amendment 3 to stay in place the way it is now, and the Amendment 3 vote in November is essentially to repeal Amendment 3. It's removing the Amendment 3 that was passed in 2024. This decision in 2026 is, do we repeal that decision or do we stick with it? And what people didn't realize, I don't think, in 2024, and I still think, is not being communicated, and is certainly not playing a role in the discussion as high as it should, is all of the things that are allowed if we continue with Amendment 3. I mentioned, partial birth abortion, it's unlimited, partial birth, late term, all the different hormone, treatments on minors and things like that all are part of Amendment 3. People get focused on the yes or no, black or white abortion issue, and they don't realize all the consequences of their vote. And again, I blame the Republicans for putting it out there at this level, because if you were to just make it before Amendment 3, I thought Missouri had a really good bill, the heartbeat bill, the trigger law that went into place when Roe versus Wade was overturned. It outlawed, a huge percentage of abortions, the late term abortions. It kept us under control when it came to other issues like the doctors and minors and hormone treatments and trans, all that, that whole issue. But we've allowed all that to happen now because we've taken such a hard stance on eliminating all abortion. If there was just a little bit of a middle ground, we could eliminate all of those hormone treatments, late-term abortions, partial term, all of those things. And that would be just a huge, in my opinion, a huge victory for the pro-life side. But that is not an option that voters have in November. And that's going to be, I think, a big problem. I want to continue the conversation and hold you over, but last thoughts on this before we take a quick break, Justin?
To me, it troubles me because real people are going to suffer. And when we're talking about, and needlessly so too, it doesn't need to happen. And it just really does make me think and pray hard, because when you're talking about women that will be harmed with no recourse, which is completely avoidable, doesn't need to happen, and yet that is exactly what we're facing. And
you don't even have to be a doctor. You don't have to. You can have a procedure, and it doesn't even have to be by a doctor in Missouri now. That's how unlimited the abortion rule is under the current Amendment 3. I'm sorry, but it's a great point. Go ahead.
That's exactly what is concerning me. I have a daughter, and for those of us with children, what kind of state are we leaving them with? What? Because we're failing to do what is necessary. We're failing to do the hard things now, and we're leaving a future that is very uncertain.
Talking to Justin Sparks, former Missouri State Representative, and I want to shift the conversation as we talk about, all the things that are on the line in the November midterms and with our future here. I mentioned at the beginning of that segment, there was a poll that was done, a CBS News poll, that found that 58% of Democrats, 58% of Democrat voters have a positive view of socialism compared to just 32% who have a positive view of capitalism. That's a big problem heading into these elections. And there was an interview done by CBS News about this poll with the governor of Kentucky, Democratic Governor Andy Beshear, where he laid out some more of the plan that this Democratic Party has moving forward and what they would like to see happen like eliminating the Electoral College, but it doesn't stop there. So I want to fill you in on all of those details, expose the true direction and priorities of this Democratic Party moving forward, and get Justin's thoughts on it and your thoughts on it as we continue here on a busy Monday afternoon on Colombo and Company.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Would you hold me on your shoulder wherever you walk? Would you turn my volume up in front of the cops?
News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 1019 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
Fox News commentary with Laura Ingraham. Next.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Laura Ingraham looks at the possibility of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running for president.
These next 6 months will be crucial for AOC. What happens in the midterms with El Sayed in Michigan, what happens in New York under Mamdani, will all be taken into account by the voters, who in her party want, above all, a winner who will undo 4 more years of Donald Trump. The key question is going to be, how does she do on that debate stage? We know her progressive bona fides are not in doubt, but she's using her story in an interesting way, too. Her personal reproductive story to relate to women of a certain age and stage in life, that may have some appeal. But if she's actually pressed on substantive issues involving economic policy, foreign policy, it's a total mess.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
License number GL250000615.
You're cooking dinner. The lights go out. You flip the breaker and forget about it.
But what if it keeps tripping?
Trips once, your breaker's doing its job. Keeps tripping? That's a warning. Bad wiring or something worse.
Do people just keep flipping it?
Most do, until they can't anymore.
Call Grasser. We'll stop the trip.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo, and it's tough to pick, but my favorite sandwich at Capriotti's is the cheesesteak with a side of Cap's awesome fries. Visit Capriotti's now at 2 locations on Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet. I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888 to learn more about our special $67 offer.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story, 1969, the most famous concert in history. Woodstock.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with former Missouri Representative Justin Sparks on the line with us. And, yeah, Justin, as I mentioned, the new CBS News poll shows that 58% of Democrats in the United States have a positive view of socialism, and that is compared to just 32% of Democrats in the United States who have a positive view of capitalism. Before we even go into this conversation any deeper, does that seem right to you? Do those numbers seem a little bit exaggerated? How do you feel about, about it? Because I want to kind of set a baseline of where we think, this country is thinking and the way that these voters, are heading as we head into November. Do you think that it's nearly 60% of Democrats who have a positive view of socialism?
I think those numbers are low.
Really?
I think it's more.
Yeah.
And especially if they were to get a better subsection of the younger voters, the numbers would be even higher.
Yeah.
Significantly higher. And you have to remember why.
Because they don't know what it is. They don't understand.
Yeah.
Is why.
They don't.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Essentially, you're just seeing that they're uneducated, stupid voters. And that's kind of maybe a little bit of a mean way to say it, but it is very accurate. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, it's as much our fault as it is their fault.
Yep.
Because we're the
100%.
ones that didn't teach them. You know what I mean? Like
Correct.
when you criticize a younger generation for not understanding the difference between socialism and capitalism and communism and all of these things, we're the ones who didn't do our job in teaching them. So it's as much as an insult on us as them.
I think we assumed that they were receiving the education that we received in school, whether private education or public education, which I attended both. You're assuming that they get civics and a history of Western civilization, for example, and the positive benefits to mankind that have come from the 250 years of the existence of the United States. And instead, they've gotten the opposite. They haven't been taught those things. They've actually been indoctrinated with things like socialism. And you heard a lot, for example, you hear a lot about the horrors of Nazis, but you don't hear a lot about the horrors of Mao's China in our schools. Mm-hmm. And that is very intentional. I don't think it's a mistake. I think that it's been intentional this whole time. It's been part of an intentional effort to subvert the institutions within the United States of public education, mass media, Hollywood, and all of them have the same root message. And I think that why you're seeing this major Marxist push now is because they know what we know, what that poll says, that the population is ripe for a revolution. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing.
Absolutely. So Andy Brashear addressed this on CBS yesterday on an interview with CBS News. And the reason I think this is important is because, Andy Brashear is the governor of Kentucky. So what does that have to do with us in Missouri? Well, Andy Brashear is one of these people who is, one of the up-and-coming, one of the rising stars, one of the big names in the Democratic Party. And I think we should pay attention when any of them speak because it shows us the path that they're on, the intentions that they have. So I think, when Andy Brashear is talking about what he sees for the future is not just a concern for Kentucky, but it's a concern for the entire country. And he was presented with this poll, and he started off as they often do, knowing how to say the right thing before the indoctrination begins. He said, quote, "Now I believe socialism is a failed experiment." What do you think the next word is? But he said that what he makes of that poll is not necessarily socialism per se, because he says it's a failed experiment. But what he said, what I make of this is that people are struggling. Quote, they're struggling because the cost of groceries is too high. The cost of gas is too high. It's too hard to see a doctor. And that's so funny. The party that wants to institute universal health care, where in the countries, like ask somebody in Canada how hard it is to see a doctor. It's extremely difficult to see a doctor under universal health care systems that exist at least now. So that's just ironic, that one. Cost of gas is too high, too hard to see a doctor. When you do, the cost is so high as well. He said they're not asking for a lot. I believe that what we need to do is get results for the American people. And I think when you look at Democratic governors, you see those results. You think the people in Illinois under the Democratic governor of J.B. Pritzker are seeing results that are fixing their lives, Justin?
No, I think that what you see in Illinois is a governor that ingratiates special interests in himself. And in Illinois, you see the worst run state in the union for the last 50 years, and it's not even close. But, Tony, we have to ask ourselves, like, when you see the governor of Kentucky saying that, it's an extremely slick, intentional, populist message, and it works. It's very effective. It's the workers of the world unite. It's the take all of the different factions, the marginalized factions, the factions that are suffering the most within your society, and then capitalize on their suffering and give them a reason for their suffering and give them an avenue for getting their suffering to go away. Okay, that's exactly what this is. It's been tried many times before. It's very effective. And what I'm afraid of is that there's a significant portion of our Republican friends that fail to see that people actually are suffering. And the reason for that, of course, is because Donald Trump is the president. And if you acknowledge that folks are struggling, then somehow he's going to catch the responsibility for that. And that's not entirely fair. But it is the reality that people are suffering. There are significant portions of our population that are not doing as well, that are struggling to get a home. We have to be able to call balls and strikes and say, no, there are significant encumbrances to the economic welfare of portions of our population. And why is that? It's not, many of them are working very hard. These are not people laying around all day on government welfare. Right. Okay. They are struggling yet still. And we have to talk about why that is. And right now, you have a significant portion of the conservatives and the MAGA movement that do not want to acknowledge that because they think it makes the president look bad.
Yeah, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Not being able to call strikes on your own side is always a huge problem for either political party. But you're exactly right. There are, I have a daughter, a 23-year-old daughter who, who has a full-time job. Her fiance has a full-time job. But they, they're making money. They're doing good, but they can't afford to buy a house because those houses just don't exist. Those starter homes that we all had, there's problems in the housing system and other issues that we do need to address. I'll tell you who's not going to fix them: the left, who wants to, take away rights from landlords and others. They're not going to fix the problem. So it's okay for us to address that there is a problem and try to fix it. Andy Beshear went on in this interview to lay out some of the things that he wants Democrats to do across the country in order to respond to these voters that are struggling, the voters that think that socialism is better than capitalism. He said that fixing the government meant outlawing partisan redistricting. He said, quote, enshrine part of the voting acts right there in the Constitution. He said instituting term limits for Congress and the Supreme Court would be another one. He said, quote, it should also overturn Citizens United. And here's the big one. And I think call for direct elections of the president and the vice president. He went on to say, quote, that could actually make things work. A big idea that would, yes, change government, but in a way enshrined in the Constitution where people would know it's going to get better. He was asked by the host on CBS News, I didn't know you support abolishing the Electoral College. And Beshear responded, quote, yeah, I've said it a number of times, and it's because in Kentucky we will never see a candidate for president or vice president unless they're from here. Why? Because people just expect it'll go one way or the other. So anyway, he gets into eliminating the Electoral College. Not the first time, certainly, that we've heard this argument, but yeah, fundamental, damaging, impactful changes to the United States Constitution under this path forward that Beshear and many other Democrats are laying out. Your thoughts?
Well, they're saying the quiet part out loud now.
Yeah, they sure are.
What is different, right? Because we've talked about this before. You've heard me drone on and on infinitum about the fact that there's a Marxist, communist effort intentionally to subvert the institutions of our society and to do so behind the scenes. It's not behind the scenes anymore. This is a mainstream possible vice presidential candidate with AOC. You heard it first on the Tony Colombo show. That's what I think their ticket will be. And it very well could be. And why? Because there's broad appeal. And they're saying these things out loud now because they believe they have the support. They believe that they actually have the momentum and they have the winning message. Now, what that's actually going to look like is incredibly destructive, right? These policies in practice destroy your country. We've seen it in history many, many times, but it doesn't matter in practicality if people don't know that, if people don't realize that. And he's saying exactly what they're planning on doing: packing the Supreme Court, things like getting rid of the U.S. Senate. This is on their platform. It's published. This is the DSA. This is
packing the Senate.
This is what they want to do.
Yeah, they want
exactly.
bigger. They want New York and California. They don't want 2 senators in every country, in every state. They want it to be like the House. They want to have more senators in the more populated states, which again, it's just like the Electoral College is exactly backwards of the way that the Founding Fathers set things up, because they didn't want the big cities to have all the power and influence over the rest of the country. And that's, of course, what Democrats want. By eliminating the Electoral College and packing the Senate, then you control the country from New York, L.A., and Chicago. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And that's a big problem.
And the difference between what he is saying and what the Democrats are planning versus the Republicans, when you heard them campaigning, when you heard the MAGA movement and the coalition that was built to win the last presidential election, is they actually will do what they're saying. That is the main difference between the ideological perspectives of the left versus the right. The right had their chance. They have their chance right now. They have all 3 branches of government, and they can't even pass something that like 70 to 80% of all Americans, Republicans and Democrats, support, the SAVE Act, voter ID. This is like extremely basic stuff. And you can't even get that passed. When the Democrats and the DSA, the socialists, get power, they will do everything and more that they promised. And that's the main difference. That's why when I say we are 1 to 2 election cycles of complete socialism in this country, is because they are so effective at instituting their policies and holding their promises versus the right.
Yeah, because it really doesn't take much. I mean, if you were able to eliminate the Electoral College and add that senator move in there, like more senator, or get D.C. to be a state or Puerto Rico to be a state, just, any 2 of those actions completely swing the balance of power overwhelmingly to the left in a way that would never be able to be overcome. It would be that quick if we allow it to happen. And that's why it's so important that we have these conversations. And I appreciate our great guest like Justin Sparks, former Missouri State Representative. Justin, as always, great stuff. Look forward to talking to you again very soon. Appreciate your time as always, and have a great rest of your day.
You too, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, awesome stuff there. Just about 10 minutes before we have to hand it off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. I mentioned that Meta is heading into a court case that I think is very interesting and also going to have a major impact on the future and social media platforms. I want to talk a little bit about that before we hand things off to Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show next here on Colombo and Company.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have a health reminder from the CDC.
Pneumococcal vaccination is recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Man, great conversation with Justin Sparks in that last segment. Paul Curtman in the 2 o'clock hour. As always, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast if you missed any of those conversations, because it's the best way to make sure you never miss anything that happens on the show. Subscribe to Colombo and Company on your favorite podcast platform, because we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day. You can also watch the show live every day on social media. We're about to talk about social media. On Facebook and Twitter and Rumble and technically YouTube, but YouTube doesn't like us. We've been suspended many times. I wouldn't rely on YouTube. I'd stick with Rumble and Twitter and Facebook, maybe in that order, if you want to watch the show live or watch the show afterwards. You can watch the live stream afterwards as well. And don't forget about our app. Another great way to make sure you never miss anything that happens here on the show or on the station from wherever you are. News Talk STL app, absolutely free. All right, tomorrow, Tuesday, we are going to talk to our legal expert, Susie Moore, and our big tech expert and AI expert, Mike McCleary, which is perfect because we are heading into what I think is going to be a very impactful court case. I think that this could set a precedent, one way or the other, that will have a major impact on the future of social media platforms, because Meta is heading into a court case brought by a group of states who claim that the company designed its social media platforms to be addictive and misled the public about potential risks. The trial is expected to begin with opening statements tomorrow in the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of California in Oakland, after the two sides went through the jury selection process last week. The judge turned down Meta's request for the case to be dismissed. The trial is expected to last 4 to 6 weeks, with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg expected to testify. You know, that is going to be, that's going to have all eyes on what's going on there. So the attorneys general of California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey first filed the lawsuit in 2023 after a multi-state investigation into the impact of Facebook and Instagram, two of Meta's big platforms, of course, on young users. They argued that the platforms were designed to be addictive and that the company downplayed the potential impact on young people. So this is massively important, because if at the end of this, if the ruling comes down that Facebook and Instagram, Meta, illegally misled the public about potential risks of being on social media and designed their platforms to be addictive. I mean, if Facebook is addictive for young people, what's TikTok? What are so many other platforms, social media platforms? I would imagine that this would have an immediate and massive impact on what is happening with social media and, social media behaviors, which is dominant across not just the younger generation, across everybody in the United States. And while I think that there is something to be said about, social media platforms misleading people or not having the best intentions at heart, there's also something about parenting and, self-responsibility that has to play a role in here. But going to be really interesting, and we will definitely be unpacking this case tomorrow and as it goes through. Keep it here. Tim Jones and Chris Arps next.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Hunters, now is the time to get ready. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors. Listen, don't wait until the season opener to dial that bow in. Whistle Pig offers paper tuning, bow adjustments, string replacement, and custom arrows. Plus, Hoyt and Bear archery bows, crossbows from 10 Point and Raven, and accessories from all of the top brands. Archery season opens in September, but now is the time to practice and get ready. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Visit whistlepigoutdoors.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
A Pew Research finds 73% of American adults, Republicans and Democrats,